This is my first night with Tyler. I asked him if we should keep drinking. He said, yeah, why not? Anyways, though we had just met at the beginning of the school year, I'm happy to say that in a very short period of time, Tyler became one of the best friends I've ever had, and absolutely one of my best friends at Vanderbilt. He was everything that I could ask for in a friend. He was funny, smart, talkative, and always willing to engage in a productive argument about anything. He also brought the best in me out. Tyler's dedication to his guitar playing got me to play more this year than I have in many years, as well as our roommate Andrew the same. As a devil's advocate, Tyler led me to think critically about my political views, my views on economic policy, and maybe views on social justice. And as a friend, Tyler made me think very deeply about my relationships with friends, my educational goals, and also my future goals. Although we met in August, I spent more time with Tyler during the fall semester than anybody else at Vanderbilt. We drank coffee and ate dinner together, we studied together, played guitar together, we listened to music together, watched NPR Tiny Desk videos together religiously. Tyler even visited me and my family in Maryland over winter break, got to meet my family and friends, all of whom became big fans. You might say that Tyler and I had begun a very serious relationship, but at the beginning of this semester, his girlfriend Cayenne came back from being abroad. Throughout our short time together, Tyler's incredible self-control blew me and the rest of our suite mates away. He was dedicated to an incredibly early bedtime. He was strict in following a workout schedule, and he spent innumerable hours playing the guitar and learning every detail of Little Wing, Pride and Joy, and just about every John Mayer song that he could find. In this respect and many others, I looked up to Tyler, and even though I'm actually older than Tyler, he definitely feels like an older brother to me. And despite Tyler's passing, I'm happy to say that many of Tyler's greatest attributes have changed me for the better. So thank you again for coming. Now we're going to hear from Professor Jim Levensheimer.
Clark Stallings introduced me to Tyler when they were both in RA training in preparation for the opening of Warren and Moore for the first time in August of 2014. The next day I saw him in the hall and I called him Taylor. I never did that again. I was sure he hated me for at least 2 weeks because I couldn't get his name together. But over the ensuing weeks and months and years, I learned that that was not the case. Tyler spent many hours in my apartment at events, and after events especially, in conversation, which I've just learned was a good sign. And he stuck around for a long time. Tyler could be, as you know, very serious. He could also be seriously goofy. And those were some of the most fun moments and conversations that we had. He was always the golden boy. But when he got a little too full of his own golden boyness, I would occasionally pat him on the top of the head where there was maybe a little more flesh showing than he wanted, and say, just remember, Tyler, hair today, gone tomorrow. He laughed and he hated it.
He did.
But what I will remember about Tyler, more than anything else, is his handshake. Whether it was, this is harder than I thought, whether it was from behind the desk of Kassam or Towers, or entering my apartment for a dinner, or leaving my apartment after one of our long conversations, or just meeting in the hallway, or walking across campus, he would always extend his hand to shake mine. His handshake was strong. It was firm. It was committed. And it was honest. For the rest of my life, whenever I experience a handshake, it will be compared to Tyler's. Some will come up to Tyler's. None will surpass it. Of this I am certain.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming out today. My name is Daniel Rubin, this is Rachel Sanchez. We had the opportunity to get to know Tyler on his Global Brigade service trips over the past 2 spring breaks. First 2 years ago on a microfinance trip to Panama, and then again this past year on another similar trip to Honduras. The first time I met Tyler Shull, I was struck by his willingness to listen. I was sitting alone at a table outside of our Rand dining hall, attempting to convince students passing by to sign up to go up to Panama on a service trip through Global Brigades. As anybody who has ever attempted to recruit students at a table outside Rand knows, this can be quite a demoralizing task. Most people will, at best, shoot a soft smile as they walk away, and at worst, avoid eye contact at all costs. Then again, Tyler was not most people. When I asked him, a stranger to me at the time, if he'd be interested in hearing more about Global Brigades, he immediately stopped, wholeheartedly listened to my spiel, told me a few of his thoughts on the matter, and within minutes had signed up for our trip. He had been moved by the cause of bringing sustainable microfinance institutions to impoverished communities in Latin America. I was impressed. Yet it was not until I traveled to Panama and Honduras with Tyler over the next 2 spring breaks that I would come to understand just how extraordinary this man was. For starters, it quickly became clear that he had a brilliant mind unlike any other I'd ever seen. I remember I had brought a short book on our first trip together, and I'd been proud to have finished a couple of chapters by the end of the week. Tyler, on the other hand, had finished 90% of David Foster Wallace's 1,000-page novel, Infinite Jest, by the time we'd reached our compound on the first day of the trip. That was Tyler. And a couple days later, he showed us that it wasn't just brilliance for brilliance' sake in his mind, but that he would actually use his brilliance on a daily basis to connect with others. When he and another girl on our trip were talking about how much she had enjoyed a book that she had just finished, well, he read that one too in a single day, just so that he could understand her passion and continue to have a conversation with her.
That's just the type of person Tyler was. Brilliant, of course, but more than that, he was driven. Driven to listen and to understand others, driven to learn about the plight of others, and driven to stop at nothing to find and implement solutions to problems he saw in the world around us. I recall one day in Panama, the road leading to the community we had been working in had been blocked off by local protests, and so we'd been sent to a farm for the day to help some locals around their land. Most of us were thrown off by this. It was a hot, sweaty Panama day, and we were exhausted from jet lag. We'd signed up to help set up a microfinance bank, not do back-breaking physical labor. Many of us allowed these excuses to get the best of us and trudged through this day doing the bare minimum. Not Tyler. Within 20 minutes of our arrival on the farm, we looked over to see that Tyler had quite literally rolled up his sleeves, grabbed a pickaxe, and was working side by side with one of the locals to put up a fence around the cropland. This was Tyler Shull, and he would allow no number of excuses to get in the way of his ability to impact those around him. Whenever I saw Tyler happiest, it was usually because he knew he had successfully connected with those around him. If I ever saw him mad, it was because he genuinely had thought of solutions to problems around us and was facing resistance from others who couldn't understand or simply did not care as much as he did. When I think of all the things that I have learned from Tyler over the past couple of years, I cannot help but first feel pain that comes with knowing that I will never again be able to learn from him the same way. Yet when I think of all the things that I have learned from Tyler, I cannot help but be comforted by the fact that even now, he will continue to act as a role model to me, to Dan, and to all the others who had the opportunity to experience his compassionate genius. Tyler, thank you for teaching us to always be ourselves. Thank you for teaching us to never do anything without passion, and thank you for teaching us to care.
I'm Kyan. I was Tyler's girlfriend, also referred to as Potato Man. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I shared a piece of writing that's very dear to me with Randy, and it was recommended recommended that I read it today. On Death by Khalil Gibran. You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind into the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide into the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like the seas dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the key to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he shall hold the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die, but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing, but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God uncovered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth has claimed your limbs, then you shall truly dance.
Hi everyone, my name is Maggie Corbett. I'd like to begin by thanking Cayenne and Randy and everyone who has worked so hard to organize this event. I'm honored to have been asked to speak tonight and encouraged to see so many people who knew Tyler, who are gathered here to share love and grief. I had the privilege of calling Tyler my friend for 4 of his 21 years. We met freshman year through mutual friends and soon became inseparable, navigating the challenges of college together through love and heartbreak, stress and laughter, lifting each other up and not hesitate to kick each other's ass in gear when needed. He was usually the one doing the kicking, but anyway. In preparing to speak tonight, I asked friends to send me the top 3 adjectives they would use to describe Tyler. Adding my own and some of my favorite Tyler stories, I compiled these adjectives into this reflection that I'd like to share with you. So here goes. Tyler was caring. He didn't do the polite smile and nod exchange with friends as he passed walking around campus. Every time we ran into each other, without fail, he would stop, give me a hug, and ask sincerely, "How are you doing?" He was a person who genuinely cared about his friends and made a conscious effort to check in with the people he loved. Our sophomore year, Tyler and I ended up with completely incompatible schedules, so we were never free for lunch or dinner at the same time. Tyler, ever the devoted friend, would get up early, walk across campus from Kassam to McTier at 7 a.m. once a week to have breakfast with me. He made the time to nurture our friendship because that's who he was. Tyler was charismatic. He was so full of life, bursting with boundless energy that lit up any room he walked into. The last time I saw him, we had planned to go to yoga class together. Tyler, of course, forgot about the class. So we had lunch together instead, and we spent the next several hours wandering campus together, enjoying the sunshine and each other's company. I can picture it in my mind, under the Calhoun Arch, me sitting at a table while Tyler stood across from me, ranting emphatically about every topic under the sun. telling me how amazing Cayenne is and how lucky he felt to be with her. He walked as he talked, expressing as much with his hands as he did with his voice, doubling over in laughter as we reminisced about our freshman year adventures. This is the image I've cherished since his death and will continue to hold in my heart as I try to make sense of this new world without Tyler in it. Tyler was genuine. He was unapologetically, authentically himself all the time. And he inspired others to be their full selves too. Knowing Tyler made me more courageous, more sure of myself, more bold, because he was. Tyler was friend and brother, witty and charismatic, genuine and kind. He was loyal and brilliant and stubborn and giving and honest and alive. As we struggle to make sense of his death together, let us all try to care for each other the way Tyler cared for us, with our whole hearts, with intention, and with sincerity.
I'm Madison. I was Tyler's friend and lived with him in our suite. And when I decided to speak today, I had some trouble, first of all, because there are a lot of stories about Tyler. When you live with someone, you learn a lot about them, and sometimes it's more than you might even like to know. And the other thing was that the thing about Tyler was, if you didn't know him, there's a chance you didn't like him. I was in a class with Tyler for a whole semester before I knew him, and I thought we could never be friends. On the first day of class, Tyler was late, and most students, when they're obviously late, will sort of slink in the back and sit in the back row. Tyler strolled in, literally waved to the professor and said, "Hey," and then sat himself in the middle of the front row, which until he had entered had been completely empty. And that pretty much set the tone for the semester and for my first impressions of him. Tyler was loud, he was opinionated, he was outspoken, and several of his opinions that he voiced in that class did not align with mine. And he laughed at his own jokes. So that's how that started. But somehow, a semester later, Tyler and I found ourselves moving into the same tower suite. And I still only knew Tyler from class, and so I was perhaps less than thrilled about living with him, but I told myself to get to know him. And once I got to know him, I realized that my first impressions had been fairly accurate. Tyler was still loud, he was still opinionated, still argued with anyone about anything, but argued well. And he still laughed at his own jokes. But I also saw that as much as he often tried to hide behind his bravado, Tyler was kind. Last fall, Tyler helped me through several minor emergencies, one of which actually caused him to fail an exam that he had the next day. But he never told me about that. Actually, I learned about that several months after it happened. Always, Tyler was dependable, he was patient, he was self-assured, and although he denied it, he was optimistic. When bad things happen, people tell you it'll be okay. Tyler told me it'll get better. So I said he was kind, but there's a caveat. He was kind in a way that very few people are, which is to say he was not gently and sweetly caring. He was actually aggressively and abrasively so. At night, when he was bored, he had this habit of coming into my room, and he had so much energy, just so loud. "Hey, what's going on? Talk to me, pay attention to me, how was your day?" And probably more than half the time, I would be tired or in a bad mood and just not want to talk to him. But when he noticed that, he wouldn't leave. Actually, instead, he would start doing ridiculous things to try to make me laugh. He would strike poses in front of my mirror and say, "Tell me I'm pretty." He would make really offensive jokes to try to shock me.
Or he would just sit on the floor and make these weird faces at me in complete silence. Basically, he would do anything that was completely irritating and made him impossible to ignore. And sometimes I hated him when he did that. But eventually, no matter how obstinate I was about staying in a bad mood, he would make me laugh. And when I did laugh, Tyler would stand up, he'd pat me on the head, he'd walk out the door, and he would say, "See, it'll get better." So everyone I've talked to about Tyler since his death has said the same thing. His mannerisms, his laugh were so distinctive, so powerful, that they're impossible to forget. He had this shrug he made, this kind of ironic shrug, when he told really bold and sometimes bad jokes. And if you know him at all, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes now, to me, Tyler almost seems like a caricature of himself. He was so big, so bold, that it almost seemed like he wasn't real. But what is real is what Tyler left. And he left a group of people, a big one, enough to fill this place, who are better for having known him and for having received his kindness, for having been bolstered by his optimism or experienced his refusal to let a bad mood stick around. If Tyler taught me anything, it is to approach friendships as he did. That is to say, with intentionality, to notice people, to care for them, and always to try to make them laugh. To tell them that it will be okay, but not only that it will be okay, that it will get better, and to believe it. Thank you.
My name is Doug Fisher. I'm the faculty director at Warren College. It's an honor to be here. My thoughts are with you, Chris and Dee. Tyler was one of the inaugural resident assistants at Warren and Moore colleges. And he was really excited to be part of that inaugural RA group. He got right into it. He asked me early, in addition to being an RA, could he be a member of the Warren College Council as well? And we talked about that. But he wanted to get into the activities at Warren as much as any of our other members. He was responsible for bringing in faculty members, given the interests of his residents. Apparently on his hall, there were a lot of engineering and computer science students. And he would specialize in bringing in engineering and computer science faculty, which isn't the norm in our residential college. But I think Tyler was onto something. One day, Tyler asked to make pizzas for his hall and in our faculty apartment. And he wasn't going to order in the pizzas. He was going to make them from scratch, start to finish, and that's what he did. And I'm seeing nods, so I'm assuming some people heard about this. I was traveling, but my wife told me it was a wonderful time, and it was not nearly as big a mess as you might think. But that was the kind of RA I think Tyler was. The graduate fellows, Nick and Grace, from those first 2 years have been in touch, and we've been consoling each other. So their thoughts are with the family as well. Tyler spoke his mind, as others have indicated. I remember one of the many fire drills we had in the first year at Warren and Moore colleges, and some of you residents will remember that. But on one of those fire drills, Tyler suggested that I might come down from the faculty apartment a bit more quickly. He was nervous when he said that, but he said it anyways because he cared. That was Tyler, and you all know that. It was endearing. I talked to Matthew Sinclair earlier today about his memories of Tyler. And Matthew was the supervisor of the resident assistants in that first year. Matthew said that Tyler was deeply reflective and that he worked at learning about his residents and residential life.
and that he spoke up when he thought someone would benefit. Matthew explained, and I won't go into details because Matthew tells his story much better than I will, and maybe you can hear it at the reception. But Tyler encouraged Matthew's interest in guitar. Tyler became something of a guitar mentor to Matthew. And again, this is something that you can ask Matthew about. I think Tyler's friend Douglas summed it up well, at least for me. Douglas said that Tyler cared intentionally for people, that Tyler saw it as an obligation to care for other people, but that feeling of obligation was aligned with a genuine empathy for others. Tyler was a serious man, but he was really easy to like. I'll always remember about him, and that's not a combination you find every day. My wife and I are going to remember Tyler fondly for the rest of our lives, and Tyler will always have a place at Warren and Moore colleges, and fair to say Vanderbilt University as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Max Eagle. I met Tyler my first year about a month into the school year at Vanderbilt. I had just moved dorms from Murray to North House. I was having a lot of roommate issues. It was a Friday night. By the time I had all my things in my room, I was getting things settled. It was about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I have stuff all in the hallway, and I'm putting things away and packing things up into the appropriate bins, and Tyler is throwing a rager with his roommate, and proceeds to come over and introduces himself, asks me how I'm doing, and then invite me over to the party. And I politely told him that I was really tired, I was just going to finish unpacking, and I'd go to bed. And then half an hour later, he came by again and introduced himself again, and did so twice more before the end of the evening. And that's just sort of the person that Tyler was. He was incredibly welcoming and friendly. And I got to know him very well this past year when Kyan was abroad and even when she was back. And one of the things that we'd do together when we'd study, especially in the fall when the weather was nice, we'd sit outside, we'd study together, we'd talk. Sometimes we'd have a cup of tea. We'd just really appreciate nature. So I wrote one poem. I'm going to read that for everyone, and I'll say a few more words, and I'll read another poem that I thought was appropriate. So this poem is titled Tyler. Your fingers dig into the grass, your nails shovels that lift up the earth in feathery blades that tickle your palms. You lean back into your hands and open up your chest to the blue sea above. The occasional cloud sails by and blocks the spring rays, temporary moments of chill as the wind surges against your body. You feel the syrup of cantaloupe on your lips and face, the nectar that heals the wounds of the divine, a sap that relieves the longing for drink, a glue that holds fast your broken pieces together. You smile and sort of look around thinking, you would enjoy this. As some of Tyler's friends have mentioned, he really cared about everyone in a really deep and unique way. I told him that my favorite novel was Kafka on the Shore by Murakami, and within 2 days of telling him that and going to his room, I saw the book checked out, and he was almost halfway done with it. And he would just do things like that. He would be very present, he'd be very mindful, and we'd meditate together, and we'd be goofy, and we'd just have all these wonderful experiences. And that presence is something that I want everyone to keep in mind, you know. And the next poem I'm going to read is from Marie Howe's chapbook called What the Living Do, and this is the title poem. She lost her brother to AIDS at a young age, and this is about, you know, remembering and moving forward in life. What the living do. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there. And the drainer won't work, but smells dangerous, and the crusty dishes have piled up, waiting for the plumber I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The sky's a deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here, and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again, and again later when buying a hairbrush. This is it. Parking, slamming the car door shut in the cold, what you called that yearning. What you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss, and we want more and more and then more of it. But there are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window. Say, the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you. Thank you very much.
I was extremely terrified and nervous about speaking at gatherings lately, which is why you don't see me. But this morning I got up and I wrote down whatever I was thinking, so please forgive me if I choke. When I pictured myself speaking in front of an audience in college, this is the last thing I had in mind. But here we are, prescribing meaning to this mess, making music of this cacophony. I didn't know what to write, so I simply pictured myself in conversation with Tyler and just wondered how he'd react to everything I'd put down on paper. Let's do that, Shabam. Stop making people cry. He would put his feet up on the table as we talked, taking every opportunity to annoy me. He knew I was compulsive. I had compulsive habits. Ever since freshman year, in all our classes, we had them, one every single semester. He'd always get to class early to sit in my spot. He would move, but only after he'd look at that frustration on my face and he'd chuckle every single day. He and all my friends would do this, compete. And in this game of who can make Shabam the maddest, you won, Tyler. There was no topping you. One day, I was nervous about asking a boy out. So I went to him because he was pretty good at this. So I said, hey, Tyler, I like this person, what should I do? And he said, Shabam, when a boy sees you, he's already made up his mind. It's a yes or no. And honestly, unless he's batshit crazy or already in love, I think we can safely say it's a yes. Tyler loved literature. On his last night with us, I was leaving his dorm to go back to mine, and he stopped me. He said, stay back for a little more time. And we ended up chatting for an hour. He loved literature, as you've known so far. He loved reading, and this is a love that the two of us share together. We read to each other for that hour. He was Allen Ginsberg's biggest fan, as he said. And he made me read his favorite poetry. And he said, no, focus on these lines. And I said, okay. I read them out loud that night. Today I'm going to do the same. Howl by Ginsberg. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving hysterical naked, dragging themselves to the Negro streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo in the machinery of night. The madman, bum and angel, beat in time, unknown, yet putting down here what might be left to say in time, come after death. I'm with you in Rockland, where you laugh at this invisible humor. I am with you in Rockland, where 50 more shocks will never return your soul to its body again, from its pilgrimage to a cross in the void. I loved you, Tyler, and I know you did too. I just wish you had a better way of showing it. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who spoke today. I think we can all safely say that Tyler made an incredible impression on a ton of people, and let us never forget. Thank you. Excuse me, there will be refreshments after this outside.